Hello and welcome to this video. We're going to be calculating the standard deviation for a set of data. These set of data are actually giving to us as a problem from a book uh, written by Mario Traiola, Elementary Statistics. It's on page 106. These actually represent the highest tuition, 10 tuitions for top university in the United States. Actually, just the highest. I don't know if they are the top universities or not. Well, when we wanted to see how we're going to calculate the standard deviation manually, we could do that, of course, in calculator, or we could do it by hand. But my requirement is to really do it using Excel to quickly uh, really generate the answer. Of course, I want you to know that we could do the standard deviation for a set of data very easily with Minitab if we have access to it, or any other statistical packages like SPSS, Stata, or even Excel itself has a built-in function to calculate the standard deviation. But the purpose here is to show the long way, the manual way, so we will be able to learn a little bit about Excel also in the process. So this is basically the formula, as you notice, which tells me that you're gonna take the average, which is the x bar, or the arithmetic mean from each of these items, which is the x or the tuition, and of course we're gonna square each one of those, and the sum of all of these will be divided by n, which is the number of the items in the sample minus 1, and that's my standard deviation. So let's go ahead and figure first of all the numerators and how we're gonna go about it. The very first thing that I'm gonna do is to go ahead and do the x bar, which is the mean. That's the arithmetic mean. In Excel, we use that as the average. So if I go ahead and do the average, which is going to be the sum of all of these, okay, I would actually, if there's multiple ways of actually using the average, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat it for each cell. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this as the range for the different data, because I'm going to go ahead and repeat that value for the next 10 cells. Without doing it, it's going to cause a problem. So this way I could repeat this, or I could calculate it for one, then subtract this from this, then subtract this from this. But I'm just trying to repeat them so you'll be able to see it. The reason I was able to repeat them, that I locked the cell here or the range by hitting the F4 function key on the keyboard. All right, so this is allowing me to do it. If I do not, let's say here, I do not, excuse me, if I do not do this, and I use the fill handle to do the same thing, you know it's going to wreak havoc on me, because uh, this is going to be actually a result of the fill handle is going to pull it in relative mode, not in absolute mode. So to fix this problem, I'm selecting the range initially and hitting the F4 to lock it. So every time I calculate the arithmetic mean, it's going to be based on the same set. And here we go. So just a repeating, just for to clarify, to make it a lot clearer. That's basically to clarify what I'm doing. So inside, before I do the square, I'm going to take the xi, which is the every tuition here, the difference, and subtract the mean from it. So it's going to be this minus the mean for the sample. And notice here, we're going to go ahead and have this. When you do that manually, it's going to take really long time. That's why I like Excel, because it does the calculation, especially if you're doing the same calculation over and over. And notice some of the calculation is negative. The reason that we have to square this, because if we add those together, we could get 0. So the distance actually from the mean could be negative or positive. So in order to keep that distance, we have to square it. So squaring anything will eliminate that negative value. So the square of the difference, and you're going to see it's going to be big, but don't worry about it because we will be able to take the square root later. So it's going to be this value to actually raise it to the second power, which is the caret sign, shift 6 in the keyboard. Notice we got really large values. That might scare some students, but don't worry about it. Now we're going to go ahead and get, that's actually the square for each one of them. Now we need to go ahead and do the total. The total, that's where the sigma means the total, which is going to be the sum. I'm going to use the function the sum instead of doing them individually. And I'm going to go ahead and sum all of them and hit Control Enter to stay. And this is the total of all of them. Of course, we haven't finished the calculation. I'm still actually now doing the variance because I did not apply the square root to my calculation, because square root is the I apply the square root to the variance in order to get the standard deviation. So now when I go ahead and get in -1, which is in this case is going to be the count of these, that helps me that I have a lot of them. I don't want to count them manually. -1, it's going to give me 10. It's the wrong format, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to general. So it will be 9, which is exactly what I want. So the variance, which is going to be this. First start with equal sign. This is divided by this, and that's going to give me the variance. Now we got the variance. Now we're going to go ahead and put the standard deviation, the s, the little s, which is going to be the square root of this, which is the variance. And here we go, which we're going to get this one here. We could go ahead and give it only 2 digits to the right of the decimal point, as you notice. And that should be enough. And notice that we have here the standard deviation. It's not that big. Okay, it's only 1,403.115. Notice the data really also doesn't give us too much information because the data are the top 10 university anyway, top 10 tuitions for the universities anyway. So I hope you learned something in order to really use Excel to do something manually very quickly. Notice the standard deviation is actually the square root, which is, as you notice, with the function square root of the value of the variance, which was calculated by the square root of all the differences after I sum them, divided by in -1, which is 9 in this case, and very easily we were able to obtain the square root, which is of that value, which is actually the standard deviation. Thank you for watching, and I hope to make more of these videos for you in the future.